The sound of my old toolbox hitting the trash bin was louder than it should have been. Metal against concrete, a hard, hollow crash that echoed through the garage. Then my daughter-in-law laughed and said, "This worthless old man does not need it anymore." I stood in the doorway holding a grocery bag, staring at the red steel toolbox my wife had bought me 27 years earlier. My son Kevin stood beside her. He did not laugh, but he did not stop her either. That hurt more. My name is Walter Hayes. I am 69 years old, retired from an auto repair shop in Dayton, Ohio. For 42 years, I fixed engines, brakes, old trucks, leaking pipes, and anything else people brought through my garage door. But after my wife Eleanor died, I learned there are some things no tool can repair. Grief is one of them. Eleanor had been gone for 8 months when Kevin and his wife Brianna moved into my house temporarily. That was the word they used. Temporary. Kevin had lost his job at a software company. Brianna said their apartment lease was ending. They needed somewhere stable while they figured things out. I said yes before Kevin finished asking. That is what fathers do, especially fathers who are afraid the house has become too quiet. At first I was grateful for the noise. Their son Mason ran through the hallway with toy trucks. Brianna cooked dinner twice a week. Kevin sat with me in the living room watching football, sometimes laughing at the same old jokes Eleanor used to roll her eyes at. For a few weeks I thought family had saved me from loneliness. Then Brianna started changing things. She replaced Eleanor's curtains without asking. She packed away the hallway photos because they made the house feel too heavy. She called my old leather recliner a smell problem. And then she started looking at my garage. That garage was not just a garage. It was where I taught Kevin to change oil when he was 16. It was where Eleanor brought me coffee every Saturday morning, in the same blue mug for 27 years. It was where I rebuilt my father's old 1972 Chevrolet truck, piece by piece after he passed away. And it was where I kept my toolbox. Red steel, scratched corners, one missing handle screw. Nothing fancy. But Eleanor gave it to me on our anniversary, after years of watching me keep tools in old coffee cans and wooden crates. She painted a tiny white flower on the side herself. I never covered it, not even when the paint began to fade. One Saturday morning, Brianna walked into the kitchen while I was making coffee. She had her phone in one hand, and that polished smile people use when they already made a decision for you. "Walter," she said, "we need to talk about the garage." I looked up. "What about it?" "It is full of junk." I waited. She smiled again. "Kevin and I want to turn it into a home gym, maybe a playroom for Mason, something useful." I set my mug down. "My garage is useful," she gave a small laugh. "Not really. You do not work anymore." That sentence stayed with me. Not because it was loud, because it was casual. Like a man's memories become trash the moment he retires. Kevin walked in halfway through the conversation. He heard enough to understand what was happening. I looked at him. "Is that what you want?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Dad, it would really help us out." Help us out. Those words had become a pattern. Help us out with rent. Help us out with groceries. Help us out with Mason's school supplies. Help us out with the car payment. I had helped them more times than I could count. But nobody had ever asked what helping me looked like. I told them no, not loudly, not angrily, just no. Brianna rolled her eyes and walked away. Kevin stayed behind. "Dad, you need to stop holding on to everything." I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said, "Your mother has been gone 8 months." He looked uncomfortable. That is not what I meant, but it was exactly what he meant. 3 days later, I came home from the grocery store and found my toolbox in the trash. The garage had been cleared out. My workbench was shoved against the wall. Boxes of tools were stacked near the driveway. Brianna stood by the open garage door, scrolling through her phone. When she saw me, she did not even look guilty. "Oh," she said, "I thought you would be out longer." I dropped the grocery bag. "What did you do?" She glanced toward the trash bin. "I got rid of the junk." "That toolbox is not junk." She laughed. "Walter, come on, it is rusted, it is old, you do not even use it anymore." Then she looked directly at me. "This worthless old man does not need it anymore." "I wish I could tell you," I shouted. I did not. I walked to the trash bin. I lifted the toolbox out with both hands. It was heavier than I remembered. Not because of the tools, because of what was hidden underneath them. You see, Eleanor knew something nobody else did. Under the bottom tray of that old toolbox was a false panel. Eleanor helped me build it years ago after my father passed. Behind it, wrapped in a weathered folder, were documents I never kept in the house safe. The deed to my home, ownership records for my late father's commercial property downtown, and paperwork connected to a family trust Kevin had never known existed. Now tell me honestly, do you think Brianna truly believed that toolbox was worthless? Or do some people call things junk simply because they do not understand the value of what they are throwing away? Comment careless if you think she did not know better. Comment cruel if you think she knew exactly what she was doing. I carried the toolbox into my bedroom and locked the door. For almost an hour, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at that folder. My father had left me a small row of storefronts near downtown Dayton. Nothing glamorous, a barber shop, a bakery, a locksmith, 3 tenants who had been paying rent for years. Kevin knew I owned some property, but he did not know the full details. He definitely did not know that the business loan he used to start his first company was secured by my family trust. And he did not know I was still listed as guarantor on a line of credit connected to his name, a line he had stopped paying attention to, a line tied directly to me. I called my attorney, Denise Harper. She had handled my estate planning for years. "Denise," I said, "I need to review every document connected to Kevin." She went quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Walter, did something happen?" I looked down at the white flower Eleanor painted on that toolbox. "Yes," I said, "something finally became clear." By that evening, Denise had confirmed what I suspected. Kevin had been using the business credit line again. Not for business, for a luxury SUV lease, a resort vacation, expensive dinners, and payments to Brianna's online boutique, which had not made a profit in over a year. He had been using my financial standing like it belonged to him. And because I had stayed silent, he believed I would always protect him. That night, I did not sleep much. I sat in the garage after everyone went to bed. The toolbox rested on my workbench. The garage smelled like oil, wood, and old memories. I thought about Eleanor. She used to tell me, "Helping someone is beautiful until they start believing they are entitled to your hands." At the time, I thought she was talking about customers who expected free repairs. Now I understood she had been talking about family too. The next morning, Denise submitted the paperwork. I removed myself as guarantor. I froze access to the family trust. I notified the bank I would not take responsibility for future debt connected to Kevin's company. I did not take his car. I did not call the police. I did not embarrass him online. I simply stopped carrying weight that was never mine to carry. At 10:17 the next morning, Kevin's phone rang. I know the exact time because he came downstairs looking pale. Brianna followed him into the kitchen. "What did you do?" Kevin asked. "I was sitting at the table drinking coffee from Eleanor's blue mug." "The bank called," he said. "They said the guarantor was removed." "Yes." "Dad, you cannot do that." I looked at him. "I can." His face changed. He looked at me like I had become a stranger. Brianna stepped forward. "You are doing all this over an old toolbox?" "No," I said. "I'm doing this because of what the toolbox showed me." "What does that even mean?" "It means you saw something connected to my life, my wife, my work, and my family. You looked at it and saw garbage." The kitchen became very quiet. Then I turned to Kevin. "And you stood there while she called me worthless." His face dropped. Not anger, shame. The real kind. He tried to say Brianna did not mean it, but I stopped him. People mean things long before they say them aloud. Brianna crossed her arms. "You are overreacting." I almost smiled, because that is what people say when consequences arrive before they are ready. "Let me ask you another question. Should a parent keep sacrificing simply because an adult child is family? Or is there a point where help turns into permission? Comment help if you think parents should always keep supporting their children. Comment boundaries if you believe respect must come first. Kevin and Brianna moved out 2 weeks later. Not because I forced them, because they could no longer afford the life they were pretending to build. The SUV went back. The vacation was cancelled. Brianna's boutique closed. Kevin took a job with a smaller company across town. He called me 3 times that first month. I did not ignore him, but I did not rescue him either. The 4th time he called, he did not ask for money. He asked if he could come over. When he arrived, he stood quietly in the garage. The workbench was back where it belonged. The old truck sat under a cover, and the toolbox rested in the center, cleaned but still scratched, the tiny white flower still visible. Kevin touched it gently. "I forgot Mom painted that," he said. "I know," I told him. His eyes filled. "I was wrong, Dad. I believed he meant it. But apologies are not repairs. Repairs take time." So I told him, "Then start showing me." Today, Kevin comes by once a week. Sometimes we work on the old truck. Sometimes we barely talk. But he is learning. Not every old thing is junk. Not every quiet person is weak. And not every father will keep carrying the weight after his own child decides he is no longer useful. Helena used to say a toolbox is only valuable when you know what is inside. I think she meant more than tools. Because sometimes the people others dismiss as old, tired, or unnecessary are carrying the very foundation beneath everyone else's life. And when they finally put that weight down, the people standing on top of it feel the ground move.